Here's the legal bit before we start. Listen to Your Soul podcast provides general information and inspiration. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and should not be considered professional or medical advice. By listening, you agree to take responsibility for any actions based on the content shared. Welcome to Listen to Your Soul, the podcast where we explore self-discovery, intuition, personal growth, and the magic of living in alignment. I'm Sandy Banfield, your host on this journey of soulful transformation. This is the space for you if you're ready to trust your inner wisdom, embrace your power, and create a life that feels truly yours. Hello and welcome to this episode. I am so happy you're here. As today we're going to be talking about something which I feel is like essential for living a life that feels truly aligned with your soul. It's about creating mindful and intentional habits. And we all know that habits play a significant role in shaping our lives, but how do we create routines that truly nourish us and align us to who we are at a soul level? Well, that's what we're going to be diving into today, about how to design some routines that you can stick with to really help you on your way. All right, so let's have a look at what we're going to cover, what mindful habits really are, how to design soul-aligned routines, the importance of consistency, practical steps to start integrating soul-aligned habits in your daily life, how to stay motivated and make those routines stick for the long term. That's a good one and a tricky one. And how self-compassion plays a role in your habit journey. All right, what does it mean to create mindful, intentional habits? Mindful habits are routines or actions that support your well-being, your personal growth, that are really in alignment with who you are. And these are habits that you are consciously choosing to incorporate into your life. Not just because maybe they're trendy or they're expected, but because they reflect on what matters to you and what you're feeling a real pull towards. Being intentional is key. Every habit you create should have a reason behind it. Something that truly resonates with your values, with your soul's desire, with your vision for what you want for yourself. So mindfulness means being present, being aware. We've talked about self-awareness in the previous episode, season 1, episode 4. Mindfulness, self-awareness, they interconnect. And they're really important when you're creating a routine as well. You want to start by asking yourself, what do I want to nurture in my life? Does this habit reflect my highest good? One of the key elements in creating a habit that's going to stick, that's going to have you being able to do consistently, it's not about perfection. It's about showing up regularly, even in the smallest of ways. And over time, those small, consistent actions add up, building on that foundation to a deeper alignment with your path. And I mentioned it in the self-awareness episode about the habit stacking, Atomic Habits. That book is a really good book, and it talks about stacking a habit on one another. So if you have to take some vitamins or things like that in the morning, go and pop it next to the kettle where you go make your cup of tea, or the coffee machine. Where you're going in the morning, what's the sort of natural habit you don't even think about? Brushing your teeth, making a cup of tea, or making a coffee. Put that next habit next to it, so when it's there, it reminds you. And then once you keep doing it as a consistent thing, you don't even have to think about it. It just becomes an automatic habit. It's all about this habit stacking. Over time, those small, consistent actions will add up. You start building that foundation, and then it will start building a deeper alignment. You'll start doing those things more consistently. It means making a decision, showing up for yourself day after day in ways that feel that are going to nourish you, that are going to support you. Whatever that might be, whether it's drinking more water, eating more healthily, cutting out the alcohol, having less sweets, chocolates around, and whatever that is, going to the gym. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It's a really important thing to take away. It simply means making a decision to show up for yourself day after day in ways that feel nourishing and supportive. Small steps will lead to bigger results. Building a habit isn't about doing it perfectly every time. It's about showing up consistently, even if it's one small step each day. every day, one small step after the other, it's going to lead you to where you want to go. It's one of my quotes. Small steps in the right direction will lead you to where you want to go. It's so true. It's just those baby steps. When we look at the road ahead and we see this massive mountain that we've got to climb, it's going to feel overwhelming. It's going to feel like a huge task to undertake. But if you can just tackle it by breaking things down, small baby steps, what do you need to do to bring this habit into your life every step of the way? Little baby steps are going to be the way that are going to help you. Right. So let's get into some key actionable steps that you can take away today to help you with this. Number one, it's to identify what those core values are for you, what truly matters to you. You want to spend some time reflecting on your values, the activities that you need to do to support them. So for example, if health is an important thing for you, you want to create some habits that nurture your body, like mindful eating, regular exercise, going for walks, a yoga class or a meditation class or something like that. Begin with 1 or 2 small habits. Don't try and do too much at once. Integrate them into your day. Start small, then build upon it. You want to surround yourself with reminders of the habits that you want to create. So, as I talked about habit stacking, if you want to start journaling, place the journal by your bed as a prompt each night, or maybe by the coffee machine in the morning. Pop it there so you can see it. And something with journaling, I always say to people, don't try and give yourself the task of doing journaling every day. Maybe just put it in as one thing you need to do once a week for 5 to 10 minutes. Start on that, then build upon it. Once you're journaling every week, then add in another day, another morning, and once you see the benefits of these habits, you are more inclined to do more of the same. You want to practice gratitude. I love talking about this. Incorporating gratitude into your routine, whether it's at the start or the end of your day, it's going to help you stay present. It's going to help you connect to what is really meaningful to you. And when we connect to that on an emotional level, you're more likely to do more of the same. Your environment is key in order to help you stick to a habit. And by setting up your environment in a way that supports you, you want to remove the barriers. You want to start those small cues that remind you to follow through. Since launching my podcast, people have said to me, I want to do my own podcast, and I've been put off because everyone says I have to do video with podcasting, and that's been a massive hurdle for them. My answer to that is don't do video. I haven't, because for me, if I had to do video on top of recording the audio for the podcast, it's just another hurdle for me. I wouldn't get it done. I wouldn't get these episodes recorded if I have to do a setup for audio and make sure that I'm looking okay for video to a point of making sure that I'm showing up visually as well. That's not working for me. So I removed that hurdle. I didn't do video. I might bring video in later on, but for now, my key intention was to make sure that I can show up and I can create these episodes and I can bring the information that I want to get out into the world. The path of least resistance. That's something that Denise Duffield Thomas always talks about. What's the path of least resistance, she says. Denise Duffield Thomas. So take away the barriers. What's stopping you? Have a think about if you're trying to do something, okay, I can't do that because of this and that. Remove the barriers. Start small. But the key is to actually just start. You want to remove those barriers because you've got to help yourself. You've got to help with your motivation because that's going to drop. And it's like, well, when your motivation drops, well, how are you going to help yourself overcome that? And while we're on this, I thought I'd just give like an example from my own experience. And there's been things that I've been really good at sticking to habits over. And there's other things that I have not been able to commit to. And when I think about it, the things like my journaling, it's something that I put in my diary and I did it as like a non-negotiable, as a meeting, like you would do any important meeting, a work meeting or anything. That's how I sort of started my journaling habit. And now I do journaling as and when I feel I need to. I don't need it to be as specific, but when it's something that you need to start to try and implement, that's a really good way to start by setting it in your calendar as a non-negotiable. Or doing the kind of the habit stacking thing. You've got to go with what is going to be the easiest mode or format for you, work with your personality. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And when I have had a new habit this year that I'm trying to implement, and that's to do with drinking more water. I've been terrible at drinking water for as long as I can remember. And the things that I have done to help me is I've downloaded this water app. Actually, can't remember what it's called, but I've got it to send me reminders. It gives me a visual every time I'm topping up my liquid intake and my water. It gives me a visual, and then I know where I'm at the day, whether I've got to then increase that. And full transparency, I have had a week where I've fallen off that wagon and not been drinking enough, but I'm back on it. And it's helping me make myself accountable. So that's the other thing is like, do you need to make yourself accountable somehow? What tools and things can you put in place to help you? Is that setting reminders on your phone or an alarm? Or is there an app or something that you can do to help yourself, to remind yourself, to keep you on track? Do you need to put a marker in your calendar to set it as an actual non-negotiable, to make sure that that habit can be implemented and that you can start sticking to it? And then what you're going to find is then once you start implementing that habit and you start seeing the benefits, like I've been drinking less alcohol, I've been drinking more water, I'm feeling better, I'm sleeping better, I'm feeling better in myself, my skin is looking better. When you start seeing those benefits, that's going to propel you forward to do more of the same. So I just thought that could be quite useful to see one of my perspectives. And, things like with going to the gym, it's the same thing. For me personally, I don't do well with the gym. I will go all the time for 1 month and then I just stop. And it's because the gym just doesn't suit me, my personality. I have to find another outlet. For me, I love Pilates, and that's something that I unfortunately haven't been able to do for a while since I broke my ankle, but I make sure that those are in my calendar when I'm going, and it's something that I just feel so much benefit from. And the way that I make myself accountable is that I do that with a girlfriend of mine, because knowing that I've got to go and meet someone means that I'm not just going to turn around that morning and be like, I don't really feel like it, I'm not going to go. So for me, that not only is it great just hanging out with my girlfriend, but and seeing her every week, but it makes me accountable. So that's some other things, like what are the hurdles? What are the things that are going to sort of help you from making yourself accountable and sticking to something? That's why people don't stick to habits. They're not connected to it emotionally enough. They're making and creating barriers for themselves. So staying motivated can be really tricky, especially when life gets busy, when we don't see the results as quickly as we want to. It's really hard to keep going. But here's the key. You want to be gentle with yourself as well, because motivation is going to ebb and flow. It does. But when your habit is aligned to you in a soulful way, I call it soul alignment, they're going to continue to nourish you even when motivation feels low. You're going to still want to do it and show up and get that habit done. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection. A lot of these themes are going to be repeated through these episodes. I can see how they're all feeding through it. Progress, not perfection. Celebrate the small wins, no matter how big or small. Stay committed to your journey. Remind yourself, be gentle to yourself. Motivation can fluctuate, but when you've got self-compassion and you're celebrating the small wins, it's going to help you keep on track when things feel tough. And it's really important with that. If you've got maybe a small goal or a big goal or a big habit, imagine yourself in 12 months' time from where you are right now, and imagine okay, if I did this habit and I implemented this, how is this going to show up in my life? How am I going to feel by the end of that time? What's my life going to look and feel like? Tap into the energy with that. That's going to help you keep on track, keep going when that motivation slows down. All right. So sometimes when we try to change too much at once, it can feel really overwhelming. And it's important to pace yourself, to give yourself permission to grow at a rate that feels right for you. The key is just to start. I can't stress that enough. Do it imperfectly, but just start. Start with one habit, one routine, and gradually build upon it until you get more comfortable. It's one habit at a time. You don't want to overwhelm yourself, because as soon as you do that, I can tell you now, you're not going to continue. It's going to stop. If you're trying to do everything all at once, too many big things, a scattergun approach, it doesn't work. You want to start small. You want to build momentum. You want to add in habits gradually. Once you've got successfully integrated habits, then build on that one. Do the habit stacking. All right, so let's recap what we've covered. Number one, mindful habits are the routines that are going to support your soul's personal growth. Number two, it's consistency. It's the key to building these soul-aligned habits. Number three is identifying your core values to start small and create an environment that supports your goals, your vision. Number four, you want to stay motivated. Focus on the progress, not perfection. Really connect to it emotionally. So when that motivation starts to slow, you're going to still be able to keep going. Remove those hurdles. Number five, integrate the habits gradually. Start with one to avoid feeling overwhelmed, then build on it. All right, so I have a soulful challenge. I love adding these in. I want to challenge you to design one small soul-aligned habit that you can start today. And that might be maybe adding something into your morning routine, adding a gratitude practice. Maybe it's to do with drinking more water or getting more healthy, going for walks, adding in that Pilates or yoga class or breathwork class, whatever it is. Just begin with one small step towards living a more intentional life. Remember, the power of mindful habits is that they help you create a life that's going to make you feel so deeply aligned with who you are. You're going to connect to that emotionally. Being present in the moment, it's going to make you feel better in the long term. It's going to make you feel like you're living in a more intentional way because you're showing up for yourself. And over time, you're going to start to see that transformation unfold. So here's a lovely quote. Again, I can't find a credit for these. Your habits will make or break you. Make them soul aligned. All right, I want to thank you for spending the time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear how you're bringing more intentional habits into your life and how you're getting on with that. And as always, feel free to reach out on Instagram, share your thoughts with me. Until next time, that's all for me. Thank you for joining me on Listen to Your Soul. I hope today's episode brought you some clarity, inspiration, or a little spark of magic. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who you feel might need this message.